Welcome on into the Rock and Refuel Recruiting Roundup on the road at the opening here in Beaverton, Oregon. I'm with Scouts Brandon Huffman. And Brandon, we have plenty to get to in terms of Arizona guys here. You have Tyler Shuck, Solomon Enos, and Gunnar Romney. What have you seen out of those three guys collectively over the past month or so?
I think the best word to describe all three of them is consistency, especially with Tyler Shuck. I mean, just the consistency he's shown, but outstanding consistency. So it's not just he's the same level player. He's been kind of steadily rising, but the consistency in every performance, whether it was at the regional in LA, whether it was at the Elite 11 finals in LA this week, you know, the first couple of days when they were just throwing routes on air, you saw some guys that they showed that zip on their throws, but there's no DBs they're going against. Then yesterday they did one-on-ones with the DBs. 7-on-7, they're going against DBs, it's live, and now these guys that were throwing routes on air are struggling a little bit. Tyler's been consistent this entire week. In fact, on Sunday he was getting all of the reps for his team because Tanner McKee, the other quarterback, is LDS and doesn't want to participate on Sunday. So Tyler, it's hot. He's having to take every single rep, but you're still seeing that consistency in his arm. Gunnar Romney, I mean, he's a reliable outlet for Tyler. This week, Solomon Enos, big, smooth receiver. I think that's how I've described him best, is that he's big and he's real smooth. There's not a lot of wasted motion with him. Just real smooth as a route runner, catches the ball with nice, soft hands. Physically, he's tough for a lot of the smaller DBs that he's had to match up against, but you just see that consistency from all three in their performance. They're never getting too high, never getting too low, just that consistency throughout.
And with these wide receivers, you have Shuck, who's already committed to UNC, but Gunnar told me just the other day that it seems like it's down between Utah and BYU. And for Solomon, he said the three that were recruiting him the hardest, Penn State, USC, and ASU. If you had to have a guess of where they might end up or what programs they might be looking at hardest, what would you think?
You know, there's a lot of buzz with Gunnar Romney and BYU. Family school, a lot of connections and ties to BYU, a real increase in interest in that program these last couple of years with Kalani Sitake taking over. The other quarterback on his 7-on-7 team this week, besides Tyler Shuck, is Tanner McKee, who many feel is headed to BYU. And I think that with Romney, you know, you look at an offense where he fits, an offense that he can be a chain-moving type of receiver. Ty Detmer is the offensive coordinator there. He likes those receivers that just move the chains, that are reliable pass catchers, reliable route runners, and that's what Gunnar Romney is. So a lot of buzz with BYU right now. I know Jack Tuttle said, who's the committed quarterback to Utah, he knows he's got a lot of work to do to try to get Gunnar Romney to go to Utah. He's not conceding it yet, but that's the feeling that BYU right now is the team to beat for Romney. With Enos, obviously the Penn State connection is always going to be there because his dad played there back in the 90s. There's a lot of family history there, a lot of family ties there, but we've seen this movie numerous times out west where a kid's got family history in the Midwest or back east, but the longer he spends his time in the Western region, the Pac-12 becomes kind of that ideal launching point for them. Obviously a teammate is headed to the Pac-12. A lot of those players from the Phoenix area these last couple of years that have had SC and ASU, there's been quite a few that have opted for USC. So, you know, USC, the problem with them in terms of Solomon is they're in on so many good receivers. The longer he takes his time in this recruitment, the less space there may be. So that could make ASU a very good fit for him, that they're willing to wait as long as possible. And I know Todd Graham would love to keep that local kid home.
Shifting gears to ASU and U of A. ASU, no commits from Southern California, from the state of California last year, but they've picked up 4 in the past month. What do you think of who they've been able to get and the class overall?
I think it's remarkable when you look at the guys they got. Eli Doyle, 4-star safety out of Alamany. You get Reggie Hughes, a 4-star linebacker out of Calabasas. Demetrius Fowler, a 4-star running back out of St. John Bosco. And then Christian Lavalle from Mission Viejo, a 3-star linebacker from one of the best programs in Orange County. And so you look at the guys that they've got, and they all come from very good programs. St. John Bosco was the state champion last year in the biggest division in California. Demetrius Flowers was a big reason that Bosco ended up winning the state title. You look at Eli Doyle, he's at Alamany last year, a good Mission League program in the San Fernando Valley. Then you also have Hughes at Calabasas. They won their CIF championship the last couple of years. We're knocking on the door of a state championship. He's probably overlooked a lot. And it's not that he's underrated because he's a 4-star backer, but he's overlooked, and that was partly because last year Calabasas had Keyshawn Johnson Jr., Tristan Gebbia, both are in Nebraska, Buki Radley Hiles, they had Darnay Holmes, so it was easy for him to get lost in the shuffle. But then you see the guy's got 100+ tackles over the year, so he's quietly making plays, and he just is overlooked because there's so much talent on his team. So he's a workmanlike guy. He doesn't care that he's not getting the attention. He doesn't care that he's not getting the headlines. He goes out every Friday night whatnot. He makes those plays. So what ASU has gotten is guys that come from good programs that are playing high-level competition and guys that are going to just work their tails off to bring that success. And I think that that's how you continue to build consistency in your program, is you don't have to go after the flashy stars. You go after the stars that make plays and that are willing to work their tails off.
Arizona also in the mix, trying to pick up a few guys here on this very field. But I wanted to talk to you about Jamari Joyner, and the quarterback down at Cienega. Great athlete. He'll probably go to Arizona as an athlete. What do you see for him over the next couple of years down in Tucson?
I think a lot of athleticism. You know, I think one thing Arizona has shown these last couple of years is they're getting those bigger physical athletes at quarterback, but it's refining them as passers that's been the issue. I mean, Khalil Tate, you get the ball in his hands, you get him in the open field, he's a load to bring down. Brandon Dawkins can run, but it's the consistency as passers that those guys have lacked, and that's what Jamari Joyner is. He's not a consistent passer yet. Phenomenal athlete, big kid, good-sized kid. So it could be that because of Khalil Tate and Brandon Dawkins, that Arizona is looking to bring him in more as an athlete, to be an outside linebacker, to be a receiver, to be some kind of physical presence, but not using him as a quarterback because they need a consistent passer at the quarterback position, but they don't want to waste that athleticism that he has.
Now, the guys here at the opening, do you see any of them potentially going the Sun Devils or the Wildcats way?
You know, right now there hasn't been, other than, you know, a couple of guys that have mentioned ASU, Solomon Enos being one of them. You know, I think if there's a basketball event going on here, you might hear Arizona mentioned a little bit more, but, you know, Arizona losing Dante Williams to Nebraska really hurt because he was doing such an effective job in Southern California. So you're not quite hearing the buzz about Arizona that you did a year ago at this time. We were talking earlier about how Arizona at one point was leading the Pac-12 in commitments. They had a large number, then they lost a lot of those guys when coaches left, when guys decommitted. So Arizona's got some work to do, not just in state, but in the West Coast region as well. Whereas ASU, they're building a lot of momentum with some key players outside of the state, getting those Southern Californians, but then there's some key guys in state like an Enos that they can get him. That really helps kind of get things going. Josiah Bradley's another name on there that, you know, should be considered. And then there's good players in the 2019 class. Yes, the top quarterback in the state, Spencer Adler, heading out of state, but I think both those schools will like to kind of build momentum again in state and then get back into Southern California.
Great stuff from Scout.com's Brandon Huffman. This is the Rock and Refuel Recruiting Roundup on location.